All right. Dirty Sports, episode 900. We are officially live on YouTube in 5, 4, 3. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, with my co-host from Los Angeles, California, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andrew.
Good afternoon. Big
Good afternoon.
900.
Yeah, the 900.
That's right. And joining us on this special 900th episode.
Keep it at 900.
Keep it at 900. Definitely the most guest appearances in Dirty Sports history. The one and only Tug Coker.
Hello, Andy. Hello, Joe.
Tug, your hair is looking especially tuggish today. Are we fresh out of a fresh haircut?
Cut my hair cut. Actually, it's been about 2 weeks, but I did wash it today. I think that's where it shows it's a little bit of sheen happening. You know, really rubbing the scalp, massaging it. It's a rainy day here. Little weather report here from Southern California for those who are going to listen to the show during the BCS final. Tons of rain, torrential rain here in LA. Who that affects, I have no idea. But SoFi is not a dome. It's going to be cold in there. Right, Joe? Right, Andy? You guys have been there. I mean, wind's going to be blowing through there.
Well, I mean, is it not closed to the outside? I mean, there's a roof, obviously.
But I believe it's open-ended.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in it multiple times. Why do I not know if I've entered through a door?
Yeah, so it's open-ended, but they'll be covered.
Yeah. But no, that's an interesting.
I'm just talking about from a temperature standpoint. I'm wondering if it's going to be colder in there because they're drafty for lack of a better term. You know? Close the doors. Close the door, Stan. No.
Right. You know what's hilarious? I
Yeah.
totally forgot there was a national championship college football game tonight. It wasn't even on the rundown.
Yeah.
Didn't even make it on the Dirty Sports list. I was like, yeah, NFL playoffs are here.
Somebody was like, one of my friends was like, are you going to the game on Monday night? And my brain, I was like, there's no Monday night football game. We're in play. It's playoff time. It's certainly not week 18. And then I was like, oh yeah, the college game.
I was so pumped for Michigan to come out here. Get my dad to fly out.
So close.
To go. I mean, it's just like any other day to be a Michigan Wolverines football fan. I mean, it's sort of par for the course. But big letdown. But hopefully be an interesting game. So we can move on in 2 seconds.
Real quick that you're talking about Michigan, because I'll ask you.
Yeah.
What do you think of Harbaugh, and do you think he'll leave Michigan anytime soon to go back to the NFL?
I think he'll take some calls. I mean, it's not, if you look, I think somebody, maybe Schefter or Bruce Feldman, put out a record of recent head coaches that have gone from college to the pros. Harbaugh's record is ridiculous.
Well, that did make the rundown for me because I saw that. That was a great tweet.
I want to say 41, 19, and 1 or something with Harbaugh. No one else is, I think, even above 500.
Yeah, Harbaugh is Chip Kelly. But here's the thing. So these are 12 coaches that the NFL has hired from college since 2000. For some reason, he did not put Pete Carroll on this list, which I don't understand, because Pete Carroll is obviously another success story from SC. Now, I don't know if that's because he coached the Jets, earlier and the Patriots, but yeah, it doesn't work out. But Harbaugh is a great success story. None of these guys have worked out. Obviously, Kingsbury just got axed today. So I would think he would leave. I'd like to see him in the NFL again.
I mean, look, he's in the Colts Ring of Fame, having played for the Colts from 1994 to 1997. So he's in the Ring of Fame. I think Irsay has. I mean, I think the Colts are a real situation for him to return to the NFL. I mean.
But now when you have a gig like the Michigan gig, the money can't be that much better in the NFL, right?
It's a great question. I mean, I know he actually reduced his own salary a couple of years because he's, one of the few. I mean, in fairness of Michigan, there are some improprieties being sent in their direction, which is very interesting to me now. I haven't dug into it because of the NFTs or the NILs. that are possible. So I don't know how violations can take place, but there are some going Michigan's way. But I know Harbaugh did reduce his salary a couple of years ago because he was disappointed with his own performance and wanted that to be reallocated to other parts of the organization, for lack of a better term. But I don't know. I think he just gets bored. I mean, we just see him get bored more than like, yes, it's a great job. I think he just sort of says, what if I have one more opportunity to win the Super Bowl? I've been close before. I don't think people make enough. How is there not a movie about two brothers meeting in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
To coach each other. I feel like that story has not even been made enough.
Which brother do you play, Jim or John?
Man, I would, man. Jim is much more fun. Jim feel like is like almost a Will Ferrell character, talking about chickens, being scared, nervous birds, milk. So I guess I have to go the John route, more straight man route.
I was gonna say you're Jim, and because of the football movie trend, I think Kevin James is John.
He's already Sean. Sean Payton.
No, but we run him back. He just doesn't want.
But I know I'm interested to see where he goes. Usually it's like a bloody Monday with head coaches. We've only seen Lovey was relieved of his duties last night, which we'll get into, and then Cliff Kingsbury today. But not like it's usually like 7, 8, like a quarter of the head coaches are usually gone. Today,
yeah. So. Did Lovey win too many games to retain his job? Is that what happened? Like I don't know.
I don't know if that's on Andy's rundown, but I definitely want to talk about the Texans when we get into it. But Harbaugh, to put a bullet point on your question, Andy, I do think he's taking calls. He says he'll be back next year. It'd be awesome if he could find a way to get to the final, take one more level up for Michigan. And then once he's gotten there, maybe all bets are off. But I think we see him in the NFL again. That's my guess.
Tug, you said you don't know if Andy has it on his rundown. You haven't been on the show in a while. You need to know that this is now just a Bengals podcast.
Oh, stop it!
Yeah,
stop it!
Bandy Andy is a full Bengals fan again. I don't know how much you've tuned in. He has thrown Russell Wilson down the street into a dumpster. He's abandoned that love. It's just like the Joe Burrow podcast, basically.
Joe, here's the thing. Joe makes jokes, and then dirtballs take him. They're like, everything he says is true. Everything. It's just this. I've temporarily abandoned Russell Wilson. I am on a wait and see next year basis right now. That's where
I just, since we can get that out of the way since his name just came up, but I took a lot of shit a few years ago because I said, let's see what happens with Belichick and Brady went on to win the Super Bowl immediately. Belichick has not had quite the success without Brady. And everybody's like, there it is, Prano, suck on that. That's why he's the GOAT. You were wrong the whole time. And here we are. Seahawks. The big thing for Russell Wilson. He makes the playoffs every year. Also, so does whoever stands in his fucking.
All right. See, this is where I'm gonna defend Russ, dude. You're taking 10 years.
Do not come after single season Seahawks passing leader and 100% playoff making Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith right now. What if Russell makes a late career return to the Seahawks and has an opportunity to break Geno Smith's single season passing record? We'll see. But for now, 1 for 1 with the team everybody thought was going to be the worst team in football. Might have been Pete Carroll the whole time.
Well, we actually had a call about that. Like what percentage, and I don't have to play it. We can just talk about it. It's like what percentage was Geno mishandled maybe in his career versus Carroll. I would give this mostly to Carroll personally.
Yeah.
You're saying credit?
Yeah, credit. I would give most credit to Carroll. I think he's that good of a coach.
It's a good question. Doesn't really handle the offense. But
true.
But I think from what I've read over the course of the year, like the structure of that system is about throwing balls, crossers, over the middle, which is something that Russ has just patently been unable to do over the bulk of his career, just because of a lot his height is one of the issues. So I was wondering if Russell Wilson was just having a giant Aaron Rodgers party last night because he just did not want to see the Seahawks. He's already been crushed enough, but to see the Seahawks now in the playoffs, and honestly, I'm going to say this right now. We'll get into it. I think the Niners are an amazing team. I can't wait to talk about them. But the Seahawks, I feel like, have a chance to definitely cover this week, and really they're playing with house money against a divisional rival. And I feel like no one gives them any chance to win. And I feel like it's a dangerous place to be.
I give them zero chance to win.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking, I know obviously I'm strategically mapping out the Giants' path to the Super Bowl. And I had high hopes on Aaron Rodgers sneaking in because Aaron Rodgers is dangerous against anybody. And therefore,
But the Niners.
Yeah. But in a 2-7 game, okay, maybe we get the Niners out of there. But then it was like, Pete Carroll's got a pretty great record against the Niners. And I mean, they've seen each other a lot over the years. I was actually thinking, like, it's a long shot because the Niners are so good, but like, do the Seahawks actually have a better chance than the Packers would have, especially with the pass rush and everything? And Aaron, like, historically, they certainly do.
Well, I mean, I don't know where Andy's rundown. I mean, I'm assuming it was the Bengals, so we'll get back to the Bengals.
Unbelievable.
But the two things I wanted to note about this upcoming game is the Seahawks are the first team to see Brock Purdy twice this year. So they just saw him a month ago. I think that's important. Purdy's a guy, no one cares about fantasy football, but I played, I had so many injuries on my team. I had to play Trey Lance, Garoppolo, and Purdy. So I watched a lot of Purdy. And Purdy's, he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. He's like basically a little more athletic Garoppolo in some ways. And no one's talking about a team that's won 8 or 9 games in a row. That conversation is actually going to Andy's Bengals. But no one's talking about the team in the NFC that's not the Eagles and not the Cowboys right now. It really feels like a dangerous team
with their third stringer in there.
I know,
and Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, this is a,
Debo's coming back healthy. They on paper,
this is a Disney movie, and that's really the Tug coaching role. Shanahan in the Disney movie about Mr. Irrelevant.
I feel like Shanahan should have, like, remember when Andy had like the lightning bolts in the sides?
Yeah.
I feel like Shanahan should have that for the playoffs. He just feels like a coach that's flat brimmed, pulls his hat off to put his hair back, and he's got the lightning bolts going on.
Wait a second. I never had lightning bolts.
100% you had something carved into your head.
I had stuff carved in my head for sure at times. I never had lightning bolts, but hey, I can go to that.
What did you have? I think you had a lightning bolt, buddy.
No, I had lines. I had different designs.
Lines. Same thing. Lightning bolts, lines.
And racing strike. They weren't lightning bolts. They were racing strikes.
You called me Puerto Rican when I did the whole thing for July 4th when I had dyed my hair with the designs. I did look like I was showing up for the Puerto Rican parade. But Joe and I have actually been saying this all along, like, is how dangerous they are. I don't like, they're my favorite to go to the Super Bowl.
I think they're really dangerous, but I think, like, of all the games, I think this is a real trappy game coming up against the Seahawks because
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree
because it is a game at a home. They're expected to win. Everyone's starting to sniff them now, and with the Seahawks playing on house money, just getting into the playoffs, and having seen Purdy less than a month ago, I think, so I just feel like that game is going to be more interesting than people are probably giving it credit right now.
What about your Cowboys? Let's because we have actually mentioned numerous times on this show.
Paper Tigers, right? Paper Tigers.
Well, we said we want to bring you on, and we've texted. You
for
said
the Paper Tiger report.
Yeah, you said after Thanksgiving, and here we are. So obviously it's long.
Good time to be here.
Than then, but like what do we make of yesterday's game? They just got their ass kicked.
Here's what I think.
But you don't make anything of it.
I don't think a lot because I don't think a lot. Here's why. Not a lot of motivation in the game. They did play all their players, so that's that shows that they wanted to win, but they just locked up the playoff position the week before. A couple extra days of rest in that Tennessee weird Thursday night game where Tennessee didn't play anybody. Cowboys didn't look their best in that game to begin with. So there's a couple games in a row where I feel like they're not playing at their peak, and so I'm not necessarily. I probably would put San Francisco over them to win the Super Bowl. However, I think the momentum has shifted away from the Cowboys, but I think they stink. And somehow I think they're going to beat the Bucs. That's my opinion. The weird thing about that is Tom Brady's never lost to the Cowboys. He's 7-0. But for me, it feels like the win against Carolina, the unleashing of Mike Evans finally 2 weeks ago, basically I think was enough for the public to say, oh, he's back, he's dangerous. He wasn't very good yesterday in the limited time he played. He hasn't been good all year. I'm thinking people are going to think, oh, Tom Brady's going to wake up and be playoff Tom Brady. I just don't know if we're going to get that. And so my real concerns are Dak has thrown so many interceptions the back half of the year. We can't have these. He's been able to get away with it because we were scoring 30 points a game in most of these games. We scored 6.
Yeah, that. I mean, if I'm a Cowboys fan, my concern is death taxes and 2 picks by Dak every week, and 3 dropped. Like the guy's throwing 4.5 picks a week that, caught or not. And the thing with the Cowboys, I actually think they beat the Bucs too. And then you get into a situation where, if the Vikings beat the Giants, and I think the Vikings are the true paper tigers of the NFC, but if the Vikings beat the Giants, then you have a Dallas Eagles game. And that is anything can happen because it's an NFC battle that these teams know each other very well. So suddenly a team, I think if we're going to give the paper tiger crown to anybody, it's for sure the Vikings for me. But at the same time, I don't really trust the Cowboys and also think that they could sneak into a NFC championship game.
It's weird to say that in my household, the way I raised my 3 boys is to believe that these San Francisco 49ers are the most stable team in the NFC. I mean, it's weird to say that with a third string quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, but the Eagles have not exactly been playing amazingly the last few weeks. Jalen is still rehabbing his shoulder. The Giants could have, they recovered that, onside kick, it's a 22-16 game. I mean, they're not blowing people out right now. They looked really bad against the Saints.
Cowboys and that was with absolutely every single starter sitting.
For whom?
That's for the Giants. That's why I feel
no, exactly. Yes,
you're very confident right now.
Yes, exactly. So I feel like the Eagles, and also, people talk about the NFC East being dangerous, but if you look at some of these strengths of schedules, I mean, the Eagles haven't really played a lot of great teams, and the Cowboys are in the same really position. So, but neither have the Niners, because the NFC West has been really bad this year. So I don't think we really know what we've got. So, but I do agree with you that the Giants, I really respect what the Giants did this year. The Vikings are the true paper tigers of the NFC. I don't think anybody believes in them, but they will probably somehow beat the Giants in a rematch.
Are you still at Tug Coker on Twitter?
I am.
Okay, well, you will find out that there actually are indeed people who believe in the Vikings, and now that you have said that, they will be messaging you. I can tell you that. I can tell you that for a fact.
I will unleash my How I Met Your Mother,
Vikings shirt
memes. Yeah, exactly. Where I'm like Twin Cities.
Well, yeah, the Vikings fans have been kind of interesting because it happened again this weekend. Of like, people keep saying Joe and I aren't giving him any credit, and this can go into the whole Lions discussion whenever we get to that, with me battling Lions fans and non-Lions fans. It's like, to me, the reality check / like, what do you want from your team expectations, to me, is just extremely low for too many fan bases.
Yeah.
In a league that was built up for parity.
And that was the confusing thing with, I forget who even the Vikings fan that we were talking to was, but it was essentially a dirtball Vikings fan begging us to say that the standards for what the Giants should be trying to accomplish in year 1 of Dable and the last ditch effort of, is Daniel Jones a starter, is the same thing, that they should have the same goals for the season as the Vikings, who Case Keenum took to an NFC championship game, and they are in year 5 of Kirk Cousins, who was supposed to put them over the top. Like, I was just like, oh, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain to you. Like, yeah, this is, to me, this season has already been a success. if you're a Giants fan. And, if Daniel Jones can go on the road and get his first ever playoff win in his first ever playoff appearance and do it on the road, then yes, that is a cause for celebration and champagne. And if they get blown out the next game by the Niners or the Eagles, so be it. That was a successful season for us. Certainly shouldn't be the same as, a Vikings team that goes 13-4 and is paying, Kirk Cousins a $40 million cap hit and has the best receiver in the league. And, again, is 5 years removed from the NFC Championship game. But that's just me as a
but I agree. It's like my theme for this podcast for any NFL fan is, here's a phrase for you guys: expect more. Expect more out of your teams, because I'm just learning. It's comical to me, and I'll throw a lot of Vikings fans in that. Guys, you're right there. You have to expect more. Like all the numbers Cousins has, it's a lost season if you don't make the Super Bowl. I'm just going to say it. Because of where the Vikings were, like Joe said. They went to an NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. So that's the bar, right?
And sure, it's a different coaching staff and it's a different defense and different whatever. But the bottom line is they are where they are today because of a decision that was solely made based on that game. That game was, we were close, but we didn't get it done. We have a problem at quarterback. Let's go spend the money. We're shoving our chips to the middle in the form of Kirk Cousins. Here we go. Kirk Cousins is in year 11. I mean, I don't know what the latest any quarterbacks made their first conference championship game in, but I bet you a dozen years is pretty late. So if it's not this year, I don't know when it is.
My feeling is that I think you're doing this. I think you're leading Andy Vikings fans down the wrong path by saying if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's a bust. I mean, this team is not engineered to get anywhere near the Super Bowl. I mean, people make a lot.
But my point is, they should
13-4, Coker.
I don't want to cut you off real quick, but
yeah.
I'm saying you should expect that out of your ownership. Raise the bar, fan bases. I'm sorry, a lot of you fan bases. That's why I'm like, you're pathetic, and I laugh because you set the bar so low.
But I don't even think, I think the thing with the Vikings is, forget where the bar is set. It's like, what are you if you're not contending right now? Like what are you? Like you don't really, your defense is suspect. You have the best receiver in the league. He's going to get paid. Like, I don't know when it all comes together, if not now, like Kirk Cousins not getting younger. Justin Jefferson not going to get cheaper. Your defense not suddenly going to get, like, you're not going to come into next year and be an elite defense. So like, what are you building toward? And those Vikings fans that are like, we're 13-4, that's what we're saying. Like, okay, well then this better be it. The fumble in the end zone that won you the Bills game and the miracle comeback against the Colts and whatever. Like, if you're a team of destiny, then I guess you better ride with that, because if you don't, I just don't know what the future is. Like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I see that point. I mean, I guess my feeling is a couple of times. I mean, we all know how bad Kirk Cousins is when he's not playing at 1:00 Eastern time. So hopefully, I don't know what time his game is this weekend, but hopefully it's a 1:00 Eastern, 12 Central game.
I believe it's a 4:00 Eastern.
That's not good.
Let's go.
But like the point differential is like what? Isn't it minus 80 or something? Their point differential for the year.
They're the only team with the winning record that had a minus point differential.
And it's
the only team with the winning record.
They were like minus 19 or something like that going into the last game. So they're probably close it, but they're still a negative.
Okay, sorry. Whatever. I thought it was worse than that, but it's negative. But also, like, people always make fun of fantasy football and like daily fantasy stuff. But like people, good players, good analysts know that like the Vikings were always the target because they had the worst secondary in the league. They get exploited so badly. I mean, you look at like the people that the Giants are playing with right now were unleashed on the Vikings a couple weeks ago, and I just feel like I will say this: I don't think this is the year, but I also feel like yes, they got to pay Jefferson, but this is a first-year coaching staff. They get a couple pieces on defense, like a Micah Parsons. They have to hit it. You know what I mean? But let's say they do vastly improve. Zimmer had good defenses a couple of years ago. It was
Yeah.
a little bit different. So and defenses change from year to year. Everyone thought the Packers defense would be good this year. They came around a little bit, but it took some time. Defenses are less stable in the NFL than offenses are from year to year. So there is some optimism, I think, for the Vikings because they can still score points. They have talent around them. They can improve their defense. I just don't think it's going to be this year.
But doesn't that go to Joe's point, which I agree with? Like, this is year 11. If it's not this year, we know. Okay, come playoff time, there's an outlier going on in San Francisco with Purdy, but like come playoff time, it's about the quarterback you have. Like plain and simple.
Which is why the NFC is just wide open because there's not a team, including the Tampa Bay Bucks, that don't have a question mark at quarterback, like a full on question mark.
I think Jalen's core issue is his health. I mean, I think he's been awesome this year, but his health is an issue. I think with Kirk and with the Vikings, like I just don't. I think there's. I guess I do. I hear Joe's point. I just feel like ask them to win the Super Bowl this year, even at 13-4.
But I'm not saying win the Super Bowl. Like
you said Super Bowl or bust, right? I mean that's what you said.
I mean like go to the Super Bowl. When I say like go to the Super Bowl. Like I don't know. My expectation is if my team goes 13-4, the bar has to be go to the Super Bowl. Whereas,
well, what is the Cowboys record? Because mine is please win one game in the playoffs. My expectation is please beat the Bucks.
But it goes back.
I think you're setting it too low there. Again, I think I would say
we haven't won one game. We haven't won a playoff game in forever. I mean, so. You got to start somewhere. I mean, the Vikings have been to the conference finals before the Cowboys have. So,
you beat the Seahawks a couple years ago, didn't you?
We did. We beat the Lions too, but we needed some bad referee, officiating to sort of help us.
But Tug, don't you think this year, like Joe's saying, the NFC is so wide open, the way the Cowboys can play defense when they're clicking on all cylinders, I don't think it's crazy to say, hey, the Cowboys can make the NFC Championship.
I think they can make the Super Bowl. I mean, I think Cards.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
100%. But this is something I said late, even before this season, was like when we saw this sort of tectonic plates shifting of Russell Wilson moving out of Seattle, Kyler not progressing, some with the health issues that he had in the offseason. Like, I basically was begging the Cowboys to make more moves because it was such an open opportunity for teams in the NFC. With even decent quarterbacks to make a move, and so we didn't really do that. We didn't go out and secure like James Washington, who we thought would be some sort of third wide receiver. We just released. Luckily T.Y. Hilton actually has walked on for wherever he's been working out and has actually done pretty well.
I'm just glad you guys didn't pull the golden ticket of direct, go straight to the Super Bowl by signing Odell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just straight, cakewalk to the Super Bowl with my man. But I'm glad you passed on it because that would have broken my heart.
I know, but obviously, I think they kicked the tires long enough. And that's a point of an issue I want to talk about later. But I hear you. I think NFC is wide open for some reason. I think the Niners actually have the most stable chance of getting there because, like you said, Joe, there's a real opportunity. The Cowboys and the Eagles play each other, and that leaves Niners potentially playing Vikings, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that means that's a step on the Vikings fans, but like this feels like a game that the Niners should take advantage of. And I think Kirk was out there in San Francisco a few years ago and got blasted.
Well, and even that first game, right? We all know the Vikings right now are 3-point favorites. So they're saying on a neutral field, they're even with the Giants. And I think most people think that's going to be a hell of a game. That should be a close game. It just was a close game. If you had a gun to my head now, I would put my money on the Giants. I said the other day,
do we sit Danny Dimes and play Davis Webb and just keep Daniel Jones healthy for the second round? That's where I'm at with the Vikings right now.
Wow.
The way Davis Webb. I mean, honestly, we kept Tyrod Taylor safe in the finale. He was not hurt. He was just kept safe. And so maybe it's, unleash Tyrod Taylor on the Vikings. But I think, the hits Danny Dimes took in week 17. I mean, I think maybe you just hold him out for the Eagles, or the Niners. That's where I'm at with the Vikings right now.
Did you see that weird stat that the teams that played the Niners the following week or either like 1-15 or 0?
It was 0-15 heading into this week.
Yeah, I mean that's just amazing. Obviously, that's going to happen. It's going to continue because if they keep winning, the teams will be eliminated. But the Cowboys, for me, just to put a button on the Cowboys, I'm nervous. I've been trained to like not commit myself fully to the Cowboys the past few years because I think they're sort of an unserious franchise right now with, just either from I don't think they're take it. Talk about expect more. That's sort of where I am with the Cowboys organization. Like, I think they're doing a great job for entertainment. I'd like to see them go all in with trying to win the Super Bowl. And I think like,
now here's a question for you. Cause you just said one, you just want them to win one game.
Yeah.
Is that actually the worst thing that could happen? Because I feel like if you guys lose this game, you could have a Jerry Jones meltdown, Sean Payton courting. If you win one game, you definitely have McCarthy. And then beyond that, obviously, anything short of the Super Bowl, now you're in that middle ground where McCarthy stays. And it's hard to fire McCarthy considering his records, but also,
I don't know.
You've already paid the quarterback. You guys have to be in. We're trying to win the Super Bowl mode, like you said. Like that's got to be the goal right now.
I don't know how bad McCarthy's been this year. I mean, I think there's been a couple bad throws by Dak, but like they're still putting up. He's putting up a ton of points this year. You know what I mean? And Dan Quinn has done a great job with the defense. Like he's putting pieces in place for them to win. Now we'll see. Time management is a thing in the playoffs. You and I know this. McCarthy has not been the best at this, throughout history. But maybe I don't think Sean Payton. I mean, I guess the biggest, the worst kept secret is that Sean Payton is going back to the Saints this year. So, that'd probably be the number one target for the Cowboys. Otherwise, I don't really know if there's anyone out there that you're more excited to grab.
Right.
Than McCarthy. And so as much as I was like not psyched about this McCarthy hire, I can't say like, oh, he's been trash because there's been, even with Dak miscues, they're still putting up 30, 40, points a game in some games. So, but let's just start with beating Tom Brady once in his career. And then we'll reevaluate. And I think where the Cowboys are good, for all the Cowboy listeners who are fans like me, we know we play best when we're not the favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but you are the favorite. You are the favorites in this game.
That's why he wants to get through Tom Brady, and then he can be the underdog against the Eagles and an underdog against the Niners or whoever.
Correct. It's my feeling that like even though we're the favorite, people are probably like Tom Brady, free money. He's never lost to them. So we get past them, then we're sort of free rolling against a team that we probably shouldn't be able to beat with the Eagles and then the Niners, and then it gives us a real chance.
Well, let me ask one last thing about the Cowboys, and then we'll hop over to the AFC. You talked about you think Jerry Jones, and at this point, doesn't even care about winning. You think it's just all entertainment? I know you texted us. You said it's like the WWE at this point.
Good question. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a good time for it. So I texted you last night about my frustrations with the NFL having Monday night football games during the playoffs. And Joe, to his credit, said the Rams actually won the Super Bowl by playing from a Monday night game last year. I believe that was a Cardinals game.
Correct.
They absolutely dismantled the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It was a very short road trip for either the Cardinals or the Rams, depending on who had to post that game. Now we got a team that's going to have to go across the country twice in a row, most likely go to Tampa Bay, then go to Philadelphia if the Cowboys were to win. I just feel like my point to you was, when sports are being played at this level, there's such small edges that people need to sort of to find ways to win. And so when I talk about like the Jerry Jones thing, I'm like the lights in the Jerry world, like the how many times do you have to talk about the windows?
Yeah,
affecting like the Gallup catches, like that's just a small thing, but it's like it's not an advantage for his own team, and that really.
The thing about the Monday Night Football for me in the playoffs, and this is what I don't like. The one seeds are the one seeds. Like they're gonna have their week off regardless. They get a bye, And so, if you have to play a team that's has a full week's extra rest on 6 days versus on 7 days, whatever. But we now have a situation, and again, it's not even in pencil; it's in pen. I've already written the Giants in to round 2. Okay, now I might be wrong, but let's say this happens and the Cowboys win. You have to play a Niners team, should they win, that played on a Saturday. So now in the second round of the playoffs, you have one team with an extra day and one team with a short day.
You're exactly right. And that's what
great point.
Was that if you're trying to create parity, like you can say no excuses, right? But you're giving people excuses because there's 2 different days of playing. Like it's 2 extra days to rest. And I feel like for me, it's like it's putting a thumb on the scale to a certain more than you should, more than you need to do. Where you could just put everybody on a Sunday, just make the slate an extra game. But as I said to you last night, I'm sure Jerry Jones is like, we'll take Monday night.
Oh, I'm certain.
Because my point about the entertainment just means a little bit more than it is to winning. So he's probably like, is there a Monday night game? I will absolutely take that game.
And it's
all money.
Both last year and this year, it has been the 4-5 NFC game. I don't know if that's total coincidence, but it really feels like Jerry Jones was going to be in that game.
So, I think Jerry does. I think the Cowboys do a lot of great things through Jerry. I think their scouting is awesome. I think their willingness to pay coaches is they get great assistance. But it's the small edges where we like, and I know it's NFL at large. We talked a little bit about like on text. We talked about the Lions were affected last night. Now, thank goodness they won the game, but they were giving a small disadvantage because they knew they were out of the playoffs. Because the bulk of the other teams got to play at the same time, but because the NFL wants the entertainment value just a little bit more, they put their thumb on the scale.
Yeah,
and so
that's the thing. It's look, we're seeing this all the time. For as much as I love the NFL, they truly care. It's all about money. And that's where we're seeing these discrepancies as far as the fairness. I mean, I'm still in shock how they handled the Bengals-Bills decisions after everything happened. Like the thought that they straight up said, fuck you to both the Bengals and the Bills, in my opinion. They really did. Like the thought that the Bills couldn't play for a 1 seed is total fucking bullshit. It's total bullshit, in my opinion. The fact that I can't possibly see a game, number 1 AFC championship game in Buffalo is total bullshit. And the fact that the Bengals don't have an opportunity to play for that 2 seed is also complete and utter bullshit by the NFL.
Well, I think, and I don't know all the inner workings of it, but it feels like the Bills were okay with not playing the game. And they had an opportunity to be the 1 seed, and then the Bengals below them. So you're in a situation where it's like, well, if the team that was technically already above is okay with it, now we're going to like make it. And I understand why the Bills would be like, listen, we don't want to play another fucking football game right now with everything to happen. But at the same time, it just felt like the only possible outcomes, if it wasn't what happened, which was the game didn't happen or a tie or whatever, was moving it to this weekend and pushing all the games back and closing that gap week in the Super Bowl. And I just always knew like the NFL's not going to do that. Might be the right thing to do for competition, but they're going to take that media week. They're going to take the Manning brothers producing the Pro Bowl this year. They're going to take off because again, it is that, and it's an entertainment business, and that's going to draw attention this year with those guys doing it, and rightfully so, because they're so awesome on Monday Night Football, and so far everything they've touched turns to gold. So, I'll watch the Pro Bowl for the first time, but it seemed like that was the only fair way to do it, and you kind of knew it wasn't going to happen.
you see how proudly the NFL and people that work in sports are showing off how dominant the NFL ratings are this year. Like with the top 100 shows, the NFL having like 80 of them or more. You know what I mean? The highest rated thing. So it's an interesting duality that we come into today, Andy, where you're talking about, fans expecting more from the franchise, where I'm actually coming from maybe expect less from the NFL because
that's a good point.
You know what I mean? It's like, I love NFL as you all do. I love Cowboys and I love Jerry Jones. If Jerry Jones would call me up, I would fly in a heartbeat to be with them. But I'm like, it's a weird balance, and we have to understand. I think things are as much about the entertainment as it is about like the competition.
And I think there's different types of franchises too. It's like Jerry Jones probably believes fully. Like I think you could put Jerry Jones, you could hook him up to a polygraph and you'd be like, are you doing everything you possibly can to give the Dallas Cowboys the best chance of winning the Super Bowl? And he'd be like, yeah, I am. What could I possibly do different? Like he believes in what he's doing. And he also thinks like, of course we're going to, we're America's team. So why wouldn't we be on Monday Night Football? Why wouldn't we be on, Hard Knocks? Meanwhile, like, there's a thing when Wellington Marrow was live, he was like, we'll be on Hard Knocks over literally my dead body. Like you will have to fucking murder me to just like let cameras in my locker room. That's not going to help us win the Super Bowl. And, Jerry Jones isn't thinking about it first and foremost. He's trying to go, I can be this big entertainment show and I can win the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of owners, or at least I should say a few owners who are first and foremost, hey, we're trying to win the Super Bowl. So it's like, if this is going to be a distraction to us, we don't want to do it. It doesn't matter what's good for the league. We're just trying to win. And I believe he might think that, but obviously, you can't, you look at a million things Jerry Jones does and you're like, this is making it harder on your guys.
I think the NFL, I mean, and I think deep down, it's such the bottom line for them. I straight up think they were trying to penalize both the Bills and the Bengals for not playing that game. I truly believe that. I truly still believe they wanted that game played even after what happened. And thank God, I don't know if you guys have seen the updates. He's DeMar Hamlin's out of the hospital. I mean, it's truly a miraculous recovery. He's in Buffalo. I mean, it's to think that, Joe, you and I were at that game a week ago where his heart stopped on the field. Like for a lack of a better term, he was basically dead on the field. And to see him recover is truly a miracle, and it's awesome and it's great. But I still think the NFL, I really do, man. I think they were trying to say, oh, you want to not play this game? Cool. You guys don't have any shot now.
I'm not even sure if it's as much as they were trying to penalize them as they're just going, we're going to do what we think is morally right, but only up to the point where it costs us money.
Yeah.
Not if it costs us one extra cent, though. Then we're not like, okay, we can make some concessions and we can do this and we can do that. But like, all right, maybe just skip the Pro Bowl this year. Give Peyton and Eli an extra year to like figure out flag football or like a skills challenge. They're like, no, fuck you. Are you kidding me? No way.
Well, maybe this is a good opportunity to open up to the AFC, because this will have an impact. You're talking about this decision obviously going to have weigh pretty heavily on what transpires in the AFC. I mean, this is your territory, Andy. Bengals country. Hot like fire. This team. Do you think they can overcome the things you're talking about to get to the Super Bowl?
I think it'll be really tough.
Really?
I do. I think they've won 8 in a row. I think, I went down the last 10 Super Bowl winners, how many the most have won in a row headed into the playoffs. And I don't know if anybody had won more than 8 or if 8 was the max. I forget what I said.
At this point though, Andy, because I don't think you're a Chiefs believer. You just have the Bills penciled into the Super Bowl. Team of destiny, team of another. We'll have 2 Disney movies that share the same ending. It'll be the Mr. Irrelevant meets the Prayers for Hamlin.
To be honest, I'm definitely leaning towards the Bills in the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. That was my preseason pick. Again, not like I went out on a limb. I was the one of the odds-on favorites according to Vegas. I just think here's why I think that. I think the Bengals, they struggled yesterday. They won, but they struggled. Their offense
Don't even get me started on that one, Andy.
We'll get to that. Their offense struggled in the second half. The Ravens played all their starters. Now, I do give him a mulligan saying with what the Bengals went through this week, who knew what to expect emotionally on that field. Now, the Bengals are big favorites. They don't know if Lamar is going to play this week. I think the Bengals win this week. I think it'll be a hard-fought game. But, Joe, you said it all along. Look at the Bengals' path now. I think the Bills win easily against Miami. So now the Bengals would have to go to Buffalo. Good luck in a January game in Buffalo. If they survive that, most likely then to Kansas City. That's a tough task to ask. Buffalo to Kansas City. That's why I feel Buffalo would win that game. And then if they play Kansas City, it's on a neutral field.
That's a really interesting. The way I feel about that is, first of all, you talk about the Bengals winning a lot in a row. Aren't the Niners in the same boat?
8 in a row. You're right. Correct.
For the teams, so if they should be on alert. As a matter of fact,
but we've got a lot of
and actually Buffalo's won. What are the Buffalo?
That's what I'm saying. Buffalo's won a bunch in a row. The Bengals won a bunch in a row, and the only reason that both those streaks are alive is obviously that game didn't end.
Yeah. Exactly.
The Niners have a bunch in a row. The Chiefs have the league's leading passer, which usually means you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Like we've got a lot of facts. I mean, listen, what's happening is it's all lining up for the true Disney story. Danny Dimes.
Yep.
Oh my God.
He's been awesome, man. But
Danny Dimes over Josh Allen. Everybody hearts for Hamlin. Danny Dimes, it becomes the Eli Manning-like villain in a rematch of the '90s Super Bowl.
New York Super Bowl Part 2.
Yeah, it's wide left this time.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. I mean, here's the thing: the Bengals. I feel like going to Buffalo shouldn't scare them that much. I mean, the weather conditions aren't like that foreign to them, and it's like the Bills have been beating people up recently.
You're right.
Since Josh Allen's injury, the offense has changed a lot. They're not as explosive. He's using his feet more. They're in more, and they're in more games. And I feel like Burrow, where it was not the best game last week. I mean, at least he also hasn't had his full arsenal of players really at one time. Is this the first time I think we're getting Chase, Mixon, Boyd, Higgins back? I mean, I think like it's everyone's sort of been banged up or nicked up in that unit.
I'm also gonna say this, and I was, we did in the preseason, and you said, Andy, you asked me who's the MVP. I said, Patrick Mahomes. What are we still doing? Like we're 2 or 3 years removed from he's going to win 8 Super Bowls and 12 MVPs. And suddenly he's the 9th best betting favorite in the thing. I was like, it's Patrick Mahomes. Right now, I'm feeling I've got a little sensation that the Chiefs lose their first game after a bye, and whether that be to, a Chargers team,
I can see that.
Whatever. And then suddenly the Bengals Bills game is the AFC Championship game.
My other point is why are the Bengals scared of Mahomes? They've beaten him. Burrow's beaten them every time. It's like this.
Well, they're not scared of any of those teams. That's the thing. Like with Burrow, I think we all know. Like Burrow to me is that guy. Like he is that good, and I think that they're not going to be scared of anybody. What should concern any Bengals fan is the offensive line was actually playing great. They lose Collins in the Patriots game. Alex Kappa gets injured yesterday. The Bengals were the only team to start the same offensive line the first 15 games. Now they lose 2 of their guys. And that, I don't know. To me, like, look,
that's a good rug nug.
I know injuries happen, but like you're losing 2 of your guys where you had continuity on that line. I don't know. Here's the thing. I like I like Burrow's chances in any time he's in any game for sure. But I just think it's just there's so much to overcome. I don't know. Maybe I'm buying in. Maybe I'm buying into the Bills.
If you go back into the into our season preview, I said, and even early on in the season, I was like, everybody's so high on the Bills, and what like, can we play? Like we're just discounting team. We're like so early in the year they were discounting Mahomes and the Chiefs, who's been there in the AFC Championship game since the guy took his first snap. We're discounting the Bengals, who were there in the Super Bowl last year, and now suddenly we're on the verge of the playoffs starting. And I'm like, you know what? I think it might be the Bills.
Well, I think the AFC is a lot of fun because I think it's a great chance to see some other great quarterbacks on the back half of the playoff schedule. Yeah. I think so. So, where we have seen some of, not Danny Dimes is new to the fray in the NFC, but like to see Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence play each other and then hopefully play some of these other quarterbacks. It's pretty legit in the NFC. I mean,
yeah, when we talked about the QBs of the NFC, and you really you don't fully trust anybody for one reason or other. In the AFC, I trust every single quarterback besides whoever the Dolphins trot out there.
And the Ravens, right? Like it's like
yeah.
I mean, that's a grand.
Can we talk about the Ravens for a second? Because the latest reports are that there's a really good chance that Lamar is probably not going to play.
Well,
I'd assume Vegas is saying they're 6.5-point favorites.
So they're saying Huntley again, because that's where the line was when it was Huntley pre-game, and then obviously we have the move to, I don't know the name of the guy who played quarterback for them on Sunday,
Anthony Brown,
and then you would think it would be smaller if it was going to be Lamar. So I think Vegas is telling us they think it's going to be Huntley.
I think that's right.
What they're saying, but they're also like, I watched a lot on this actually before the show. Or I was watching different interviews, and I was watching what Ian Rappaport had said on Pat McAfee's show today. And they're like, well, what's the future? Because you're hearing a lot of things. You're hearing like Lamar's like, I'm not playing. People are saying you'll never see him in a Ravens uniform again. He doesn't have an agent. How he's doing it is not the norm for players negotiating. And Rappaport, for what it's worth, was saying, I think they're just going to franchise him again. Like it's turning into almost like a Kirk Cousins thing where they're not ready to give him all that money. I mean, guys, look, they went 2-3 when he didn't play. Now he's missed 5 games. They were in control of that division, completely lost control. Last year, same thing. They're right there with the Bengals, completely lose control. It's like, I don't know how many times Joe and I are going to say this. Running quarterbacks do not work in the long term, and also paying them is not a smart business decision.
Well, I mean, I think the thing with you saying Lamar doesn't have an agent is like there's essentially 2 things that could potentially happen here. He gets franchised again, or because he doesn't have an agent. I mean, there's a reason Carlos Correa is still out there, with a very open and obvious at this point, people looking at physicals and saying your fucking ankle's fucked up, and he still might get $300 million because he has an agent who gets people paid. Lamar Jackson is either getting franchised again, or they're going to, swindle him into taking a smaller deal, maybe the appropriate amount of money, but a smaller deal than he would have gotten if somebody was looking out for him, if he went to another team, or if he had signed with the Ravens last year. I mean, the not taking the money he was originally offered is the biggest fail in history, but he's either getting franchised again, or they're going to swindle him into being like, hey man, you're hurt and we don't even know whatever. So why don't you take this? And then he just goes, fuck it. I could use the money,
I'm going to go the other way on this, because I think he's actually shown his value this year. I mean, yeah, they were 2-3, but the offense stunk. I mean, they're lucky. They were lucky to beat the Broncos 10-9 in one game. They lost to the Steelers 2 weeks ago, 16-13. The offense doesn't run. They are lucky he's on the team, because their offense does nothing without him. Do you see who he's throwing to? I mean, Demarcus Robinson. Mark Andrews is good, but without him, he's terrible. He's terrible without
the only obviously the counter to that is, you're a Cowboys fan. I'm a Giants fan. I went through how many years of people telling me, oh, dude, Eli's not even the best quarterback in the division. Romo's a fucking way better quarterback. And I would always say, I'll take the 16 games of Eli over the 11 from Romo. And then the John Kitna came from gym class story. Like, Lamar Jackson is on back-to-back years where it's undone by him not being on the field. It's like, you got to play.
I agree with that. I think, and I also say this, I'm going to push back on that as well, because there's been a lot of quarterbacks that are non-rushing quarterbacks that have been hurt this year. There's been a lot of injured quarterbacks. 63 quarterbacks played this year, started this year. There's been as many quarterbacks injured that are pocket passers that have been scramblers or feet first quarterbacks. And I feel like the word I'm going to put on my my Rappaport, the reputation around Greg Roman and the Ravens offense is that they're totally misusing Lamar Jackson. And if he were to go somewhere else, the OC, a Shanahan, perhaps a Shanahan system would use him in a more proper way where he may not be injured as much. Now, the injuries are always a possibility, but the word I'm hearing is that people are embarrassed by the way the Ravens have been using Lamar this year and for the past couple of years. And so to me, it's like, yeah, you could go somewhere else, but I don't know where you're going to be going with. Whereas another team might, with some more forward-thinking coordinators, might use Lamar in the right way. And we are worried about availability is the best ability, or whatever that phrase is, Joe. But like we've seen that with Jimmy G, who's a pocket passer done for the
sure, yeah. I mean, my problem with the mobile running quarterback, with the quarterback where you're designing run plays for him, is simply this, which is to me, it's always, if you need your quarterback to do that to win, if you need him to do that to win, you're probably not truly a Super Bowl contender. You should, if you have that as an option in your arsenal, especially we've seen Patrick Mahomes pull out some huge runs in playoff games, and they're design runs for him. He's scrambling, he's whatever. If you need that guy to do that, though, like I hate how much the Bills run Josh Allen, because I don't think they need to run him that much to win. At this point with my football team, I think we need Daniel Jones to run that much to win. And that's the problem. Obviously we're not really Super Bowl contenders, but then the issue becomes, if you keep building this team, can you dial that back? And Daniel Jones, you need him to run less? Or is that just going to be who he is? Like, his value is in him running. I have not seen, in my opinion, like, to me, Josh Allen has potential if he never ran again. I just don't know that Lamar Jackson can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback if they're not designed running part of his package. Like, we saw, Cam, can just drop back there and pass, and totally different kinds of runners. But the Panthers needed Cam to run. And then when that running starts taking a toll, he falls off the face of the planet.
Yeah, I think we're moving into an NFL where I think to have mobility, I think you'll agree with this, it's a prerequisite.
Absolutely.
With your quarterback.
Absolutely.
And again, we're talking about Mahomes, who does just enough to run, but he is dangerous. He will definitely run for first downs. He will run for that, And so I think, like, any quarterback coming out, if you're deciding with two players and it's 6 one way, a half dozen other, I think it's like, who's a little more mobile? I think you go in that direction. And maybe people are thinking what we talked about before, like, how can we win with you in that 4-year, the rookie deal? How can we work with, how can we win with you in that 4-year system? We're looking at Lamar from both the Ravens side and the Lamar side. And I feel like, maybe the Ravens are just like, we're not going to bite. And I think Lamar maybe go out and do another prove it deal or something.
I see.
But,
yeah. See, to me, if I'm the Ravens, the franchise tag is a no-brainer, right? Because now you can go out, you can use him exactly how you want to use him. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. You got to pay him a ton of money in that one season, but you're not committed to him long term. You run him and you just go, hey, this is what we need to do to win. But then, of course, if you're Lamar Jackson and you're going to be used that way, are you going to sit there and take franchise deals? Are you going to we've seen guys turn down the franchise tag at this point now and say, like, no, I'm not going to be used that way.
It'd be nice to see something new happen with Baltimore, whether it's, change. The running game has always been pretty efficient from the running backs. They use 3 running backs, 4 running backs. Deshaun Jackson is on the team, I think, or has been on the team. Who like can we give someone a chance to throw the ball to somebody that's not named Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews? You know what I mean? Can we just see, can we just see what the potential looks like with people out there? Now there was,
but it's the ultimate catch-22, right? Because then you got to get the money from somewhere. And when Tyler Huntley comes in and you can still manage to win games 12-10 and 14-13, it's because Harbaugh tends to put a really good defense on the field and they can win games that way. And that's why they were so dangerous when Jackson was playing at an elite level, is because they always knew they could stop some people and they had an offense that went.
And they can still stop people. I mean, they do have some young guys on in their defense. I mean, I think Patrick Queen is a Queen. I think he's new. They just traded the guy from the Bears, who's probably locked into some sort of deal. I'm very interested to see. I guess my point is the Ravens just feel very, even though Lamar feels like sort of like where quarterbacks are going, they feel old school. The Ravens feel old school and a little bit boring to me. They just don't feel interesting.
They're the most boring team. Like, I've watched a lot of their games. They're boring to watch. They are totally old school. But I mean, look, they come to play defensively, and they'll, like I'm saying, this Bengals game, I think it'll be a good game because of that. Here's a question I want to pose for both of you guys. Who is in the AFC North longer? Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson?
Ooh. That's a good question. Well, I think to me, it's a kind of the question is just, will Deshaun Watson be out of football? Because I think he's going to be there. They've signed him for so long and for so much money that, there's a way better chance of Lamar Jackson turning down a franchise deal and then go somewhere else or force himself to another team than there is of the Browns getting out of that contract any other way than being like, oh, let's eat $200 million in guarantees and just move on, which isn't likely.
I agree. I think it's Deshaun Watson. I mean, just because of what they've invested into him. I mean, it's been really tough to watch as a person. As a person who was like invested in some of the offense this year and watched, Jacoby Brissett actually be pretty good. I mean, they were like top 10 DVOA.
He's back, baby.
I know he's back. I never quit my man Jacoby.
What do we? Oh man, I was hoping it'd be in the first hour, just over the first hour.
Oh, love it.
The over under on Tug mentioning Jacoby Brissett was 1 hour on the show.
I hate to say I told you so to the NFL, but Jacoby's still getting it done. Playing well. Watson was bad. I mean, really, I mean, I don't know if you can shock it. I'm sure you guys have talked about it ad nauseum, like whether it's rust. I mean, it's hard to come back to full game speed after being away for so long, but like not really showing any real improvement over the course of the games. I mean, I don't know what happened yesterday's game. I didn't watch much, but I mean, in the Commanders game, he completed 9 passes. They did win. He did three touchdowns, but he completed 9 passes.
Yeah. Total.
And was averaging like 1 touchdown. I think there was a stat out there that like with Brissett led offense, they were averaging 35 yards per drive, which was really good, like top 12 in the NFL. And then it dipped under like 20 or 15 with Watson. So there's really like we need to see a lot of things happening in the NFC North. There's a lot of like divisional influx, I think, over the next. Interested. The North is, for as boring as the North feels to me, the AFC North. Interested to see And a lot of it's just like the continuity that we talk about, right? It's like Tomlin's there, Harbaugh's there. It's like Stefanski's is newer to the game, but the Steelers and the Ravens, I think it's part of the boringness is it's the same coaches.
Yeah.
And, well, it is, and obviously Tomlin kept that record alive of never having a losing season. But I mean, look, as long as Burrow's there, I'd argue both those teams you mentioned, you got to find ways to score points. If you're the Steelers, if you're the Ravens, like you have to figure something out because it's just the modern NFL. And when you have a quarterback who can put up numbers,
and you've got to find a way to, there's a lot of ways to go, but yeah, probably simply because, and look at the Chiefs and look at they're going to give Burrow $500 million, and then he's going to want Chase, and he's probably going to get Chase, and that probably means Higgins goes. And then there's parts that are going to come off the defense and whatever. And suddenly, it's two different coaches, two different cities, it's two different whatever. But the idea that the Burrow Bengals are the next Mahomes Chiefs in terms of just the way that you build a team around the guy you have to give all the money in the world. It's just kind of the way it goes. You have to protect him, right? So first and foremost, he's going to get his money and he's going to get his line and he's going to get his one receiver. And now suddenly we got scraps to go around.
Yeah. And we've talked about good quarterbacks make those scraps somebody.
Sure.
Right. To me, that's the difference. You and I it comes back to quarterbacks. We love talking quarterbacks in the NFL. That's all it comes back to. And for me, the elite of the elite can make nobody somebody's.
Yeah, but we're also talking about on the defense, sure. The Chiefs have,
their defense is suspect.
Their defense is suspect, but their defense is also built in a way with you have Spagnuolo, you're there's going to be holes, but we're going to try to make up for it with scheme. And, who knows if the Bengals have that ability, who knows what they're going to be able to put together, but they don't have to make that decision yet. That's why obviously the Bengals window very much for their first one is right now, while you have Higgins and you have Chase and Burrow's not getting paid and you got all the parts. So their window is right now for sure. We're talking about no one likes the Chiefs right now. We're just a couple years removed from him getting the big contract and us all going, he's going to have 10 Super Bowls. And now we're like, their fucking defense isn't going to hold up. Fuck them.
I do think in that conference, I think the Bengals have the best overall defense. Even though they've had some injuries like everyone else, I think they do have the best overall defense. I think from a story perspective, what's a better story as far as winning a Super Bowl? Is it the city of Buffalo or the city of Cincinnati? I'd probably say city of Buffalo since the Bengals were just there last year. From a entertainment value story.
Especially recency, just what happened last week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's not even close.
He'll do the coin toss.
Yeah. Can we
hop into call tails and it'll be heads every time someone goes with the tails. Enough with the tails, NFL.
Honestly, I think Hamlin will do the coin toss and it'll be heads is my head. The other side is also my head. Bills have the call. It's heads.
Yeah.
Can we hop into this Lions talk and me sending off a tweet, which got so many Lions fans and non-Lions fans, and everybody is coming at me so angry, which I thought was hilarious, bringing kind of our show into it, Joe, because of what I felt.
Well, you have, give your Lions take. I think our Lions takes are slightly different, and then I'd like to see where Tug falls between us.
I'll be judge and jury.
So I tweeted after the Lions won yesterday. I tweeted the Lions and their fans going crazy over not making the playoffs might be the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in sports. Now, obviously, I'm being a little dramatic for effect. That's not the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in sports. I'm sure I can find 10 other things more pathetic. It's just, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's up there. I'm going
to go ahead and say, I think the Vikings fans thinking that they should have had a trophy and a parade for beating the Bills on a miracle fumble earlier this year is even tops that. That's just in the division.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from, not only did I see the tweets, I see how, a lot of the players were carrying themselves, because there's a difference between being happy and being like, dude, we won something. You didn't make the playoffs. You didn't win the division. I'm just going to say it right now. And we joke about Dan Campbell, and I think he's funny, and I think he's a character. He's a cartoon character to me. But he always says, we're not the same old Lions. Yeah, you are, dude. You are. You haven't won a single playoff game. Like, we talk about having expectations. There is a bar that you have to achieve, and then you move up a notch. You haven't won a division or a playoff game since 1993. You had some good teams with Matthew Stafford, 3 playoff teams, never won a playoff game. You've never won a playoff game. You're the same old fucking Lions until you win a playoff game. Sorry, bro. That's how it works. They were the same old Cincinnati Bengals until they won a playoff game. That's how these things work. They were the same old Cleveland Browns until they won a playoff game. So part of my tweet is kind of like, dude, lose the cockiness. Be happy you won. I'll use this phrase, cautiously optimistic if you're a Lions fan.
Okay, sorry, continue.
I was gonna say, and a lot of people were coming at me, and I just think you set the bar so low in what, again, I deem the best league of all the professional leagues where any team can achieve success. If you're celebrating 9-8 when you've had 33 years of shitty ownership and management, you got to raise the bar, man. That's all I'm saying when I tweet something like that.
So my take on the end of the Lions season, there was a Lions season overall last night, Dan Campbell, the whole thing is this. Flat out wrong. The Lions were way better than I expected them to be. They started 1-6. They turned it around. So from that, in terms of Dan Campbell, as ludicrous as I think he is as a person and as a character, like, I shit all over him for how they started the season and how they lost the close games and all that stuff. But he managed to turn around, and they believe in him. And 9-8 is way better than I thought they do. Now, I'm not on Lions Reddit and didn't have them going 14-3 or whatever the fuck it was. Like, I'm a person that's watching and going, the Lions are going to win 6 games or 5 games, and they won 9. And so to me, props to the Lions. Nice little season. You are building something. I think that you do have to start somewhere. This is a team that is one of the worst single sports franchises that's ever existed. You got to start somewhere. I think that the 2 things that Lions fans need to keep in check here is, like, you still went 9-8, and I don't think the smart move here is to be all in on Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Dan Campbell, okay. This is enough for you guys. This Dan Campbell's our guy. Jared Goff looked terrible at times last night and throughout the season. I mean, they did a highlight reel of him missing balls. Like, I'm still not sure that Jared Goff is your guy. And so I think you're in a dangerous position when you break out the floats and the trophies and the champagne, because you go into the next season going, look, we're building something. It's like, man, this shit can come undone so fast. So to me, if you're a Lions fan and you're an optimistic Lions fan, and you want to be all in on Dan Campbell right now, fine, like, go for it. Be wary of doing a Goff Campbell pairing long term. And the other thing I'll say about the Lions is a lot of people's responses to you and other people who said, like, calm down, you guys didn't even make the playoffs, was like, if you don't know how important it is for us to upset the Packers, our hated NFC, that's some pathetic shit. Like, if your Super Bowl is beating a team just because you're so used to them kicking your ass, that's also a bad headspace to be in, because the fucking Packers were down this year, So, like, you got like a battered and bruised and on his way out the door Aaron Rodgers, and this is your Super Bowl. You do need higher standards than that. Like, we saved the season. This is like, for a Michigan, Ohio State thing, like, if we lose every game, but we beat Michigan, it's like, nah, that's a fucking horrible attitude. We missed the playoffs, but we took down Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, be happy that you eliminated Aaron Rodgers. Just as a Giants fan, I would be if we ever eliminated the Cowboys or the Eagles. But if my Giants team goes 9-8, us eliminating the Eagles doesn't save our fucking season. I'm just like, well, that's a real shitty season if that's where we're at.
Yeah, and one more thing before Tug hops in. Guys, I know I was wrong. Joe said that. We were wrong. It's like you guys have short-term memories. The minute they won 6 games, I wore the L chain on this show. I said, I was wrong. They're better than I thought. This isn't about me being wrong. It's about these expectations, which, like Joe's saying, you guys are throwing a parade for beating Aaron Rodgers. Cool. You can do whatever you want. But if anyone knows what this is like and a whole city sentiment, it's me for growing up in Cincinnati. Dude, I've seen this so many times. That reminds me of like when the Bengals would like occasionally upset the Steelers and fans would go crazy. And I'd say, guys, come on. It's like a couple years ago when that 11-0 Steelers team, they lost to the Bengals. Remember the Monday Night Football? I don't know if you remember where Von Bell lit up Juju Smith-Schuster. And the whole city was like, we might have gone 5-11, but we beat the Steelers. And I'm like, dude, raise the fucking bar. Like that's all I'm saying. And I want to hop on real quick the Jared Goff thing. I just want to reiterate for those who forgot. Sean McVay literally got rid of Jared Goff for your old quarterback, Lions fans, and they instantly won the Super Bowl. Instantly. Jared Goff could not get it done. And Sean McVay and everyone, Les Snead, and everybody in the Rams organization knew it. And here's one more fun fact. The Rams had the number 1 ranked defense in Jared Goff's last year. The number 1 ranked defense the Rams had in Jared Goff's last year. He won 0 playoff games. He didn't start the first one because McVay went with Wolford in a kind of hurt Jared Goff, and then you lost to the Packers. So that's all I'm going to say about Jared Goff. Good luck with Jared Goff because his ceiling is not winning the Super Bowl.
Thank you, gentlemen, for both of your picks.
I hand over the rest of my time to Mr. Coker from Michigan.
Yield the time. Hold on. Someone's trying to call me in my phone. So, guys,
it's Dan Campbell.
Yeah, it might be Dan Campbell. What does Dan Campbell need a ski mask for his nose? I was worried about his nose last night. It was so red.
Frostbite, man.
Yeah. I thought for sure he was going to tell us like he bought a pit bull and he wrestled it in his office before the game and he got nipped, because like that's what guys with grit do. If you're going to go out there and beat Aaron Rodgers, you've got to wrestle a pit bull first.
So I hear what you're both saying. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of act like you've been there before sort of discussion. But, to me, when I look at the Lions, I think, just pivoting a little bit from what you guys were saying, there's a lot of room for optimism. The name of the OC is skipping. I'm forgetting the name of the offensive coordinator, but he is awesome. And he might be the guy to keep. If you're going to keep Goff, Campbell, or the OC, it might be the OC because their offense has real pieces.
Real quick, his name's Ben Johnson, and he's already been requested for an interview with the Texans.
Yeah, Ben Johnson is the guy that you probably want to keep in the stable because you look at what they have going. Even though Goff is, we all agree is maybe not like the elite tier of quarterback. The weapons he has are good. Amon-Ra is awesome. Jameson Williams is going to be healthier next year. Two good running backs. Ben Johnson. I mean, the play that the little hook and ladder they did last night, late in the game, was incredible.
Great play.
That's the kind of football that you want to be seeing. And yes, the team may be like getting up to beat their Packers in the Super Bowl. Maybe is not the right perspective, but you should say a lot of teams would have laid down knowing that their chances at the playoffs are done, and they still got up to get to 500, to better than 500, which is better than the Buccaneers. It's better than a lot of teams. Or 9-8, that means something. They beat the Packers. If they play at 425 Eastern with the Seahawks, we don't know what's happening. So
that's why I changed. I said a couple weeks ago, I said if they miss the playoffs, this is worse than them, having the third overall pick and whatever. And I changed my mind on that because they've shown, getting to 9-8, you have to start somewhere. You absolutely have to start somewhere. And where you have to start is, my team was a disaster the last few years. The Lions have been a disaster for eternity. When I say we have to start somewhere, we have to make a playoffs when you're the Lions, the bar's lower. You have to have a winning season. Have a winning season, get any pieces in place. And so I actually think that this was a season that you could say was successful, even in a league where sometimes being middle of the road is worse than just being terrible. I think this was a successful season for them, but I think where they're in danger is letting it go. The two things I said, it's like, if you take it to such success, like Tug said, hey, the offensive coordinator is a guy where suddenly he's off and he's got a head coaching job and you're left with Campbell and Goff and not the offensive guru. Where are you? And also, I think the NFC North is up for grabs in the next few years, and it could for sure be their division because the Bears don't seem like they're putting anything together whatsoever. Aaron Rodgers is basically, I half expect him to tell us on Pat McAfee tomorrow he's leaving. The Vikings are paper tigers, and they're not going to be getting better, all things considered, unless, of course, they figure out that their version of Jared Goff is not the guy. But you have a situation where I just think, take your success with a grain of salt. And also, if you're going to consider the success, maybe move on from if we go 2-15 and beat the Packers, it's a fucking win in our book.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Like I said, I distinctly remember being in Cincinnati. They go 2-14. They hire Marvin Lewis, and then they go 8-8 his first 2 seasons. Dude, people were so turned, and it's like, okay, I get it. And then that third year, they win the division, right? They go 11-5. That was the year that Palmer shredded his knee, and they lose. And Marvin Lewis took them to the next level, right? From complete dumpster fire, wow, the Bengals always make the playoffs, but they never win. And then they needed, to go to the next level, which obviously is happening now. That's all I'm saying. That's why I use the term cautiously optimistic. And people can come at me, guys. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. I think
they're coming at you because you're calling them the most pathetic thing that's ever happened in the history of sports. So,
you knew what you were doing and you got it. You know what I mean? That's basically what I think of.
And then you got the responses you liked, and you immediately hit the bat phone, and you're like, Jay Lloyd, I need memes about how they're pathetic.
No, you want to hear something funny? Jay Lloyd sent me that before I even tweeted. He goes, I've had this one in the chamber for 2 weeks. He's like, fire it off. Because again, Jay Lloyd's from Cincinnati. He gets it. This weird throwing a parade. But you know what part of that came out? And for the record, I'm not angry. People were like, you're so angry. Dude, I'm not. I'm just calling you. There's a difference between being angry and calling you pathetic. It all goes back to that Reddit, Joe. It went back to me. You gave what I thought was a great passion plea to Lions fans, not this season, but last season, before the Thanksgiving game. And you said, guys, this isn't working with your ownership, with the Ford family. Why not schedule a massive national TV Thanksgiving game walkout?
My point with that was, again, the Lions are one of the worst franchises in sports history.
Correct.
Historically. With the Knicks fans, the Knicks have had multiple championships, and throughout the years, some fairly good teams, near championship teams. There is a rumor that James Dolan has face recognizing technology so that he can ban people who are anti-Dolan people on the internet from coming. I'm just saying, Knicks fans have far less of a train wreck history, and they're so outspoken about hating their ownership that he's using fucking groundbreaking technology to keep him out of the stadium. And Lions fans just show up and go, it's Thanksgiving. There's a turducken. Who gives a shit? We lose every game.
But remember, the reaction was my point when that was posted on Lions Reddit. What you
Like,
said,
what are we supposed to do?
the reaction to you again, which I deemed pathetic, of like, well, a walkout. Who's this fucking no-name podcast host? What are we supposed to do? Not accept a shit sandwich every time you go to the same restaurant. I don't know. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Well, now they're 9-8, Andy.
Yeah, but here's the other thing I'll say about that. I mean, I'll just speak from my own perspective. When I saw that they hired Dan Campbell, who comes off sort of a meathead and kind of is the antithesis of what so many people are hiring today, I was like, no chance this guy's successful. He's actually successful this year. I mean, most teams that are 9-8 get in the playoffs. Like that was just a situation where that didn't happen. I mean, very few teams. The Venn diagram of winning teams that don't make the playoffs is not very. That window is not very big. So
okay, then I'll ask you both this question, because this has to be the follow-up. 9-8. The next step is the playoffs, or it's a unsuccessful season, right? Do the Lions? You can answer both questions. I'll start with you, Tug. Do the Lions make the playoffs next year?
I think Ben Johnson has to be retained.
And do they win a playoff game?
I don't know about winning a playoff game. That's a different thing to ask. But I feel like the division, Joe alluded to it earlier, the division is so important. And for the Packers, and not to step on the Packers, but like to think about the run they've had. You think about the NFC East with Joe's Giants and my Cowboys. It never felt like one team. The teams were always sort of.
We don't have a repeat winner for 2 decades.
Yeah. Like the window the Packers had with the terrible teams in their division was so long. That now that reign seems to be somewhat over is crazy. The fact they didn't take more advantage of that, I think, is something that we'll look back on.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're a Packers fan with a little bit of regret, being like, the Bears were so bad for so long. The Lions were so bad for so long. The Vikings were so bad for so long. So I think, like, with the changing of the guard in the NFC North, I think the Bears aren't there yet. So really, and if Rodgers goes somewhere else, I mean, I think it gives them a really good opportunity. So yes, my guess is next year it's got to be a playoff to be successful.
Brano.
I think they probably make the playoffs next year, only because also depending on what happens with the Packers, like Tug said. But to me, I believe less in the Vikings than I believe less in the future of the Vikings than I do the future of the Lions. So, I'm sort of hopeful on behalf of the Lions that maybe they don't, buy into the limited amount of success they've had so far and go, well, that's it. This is the team. This is all we have to do. Because if you look at what's happened in Minnesota, that's what they've done. They're like, yeah, Kirk Cousins won a single road playoff game. He is the guy. He will be in our ring of honor. He's here until he doesn't like that anymore. And so, they 13-4 is just about their fucking peak, and they're just going to start coming down the backside of that mountain. So to me, the Lions have a great opportunity here to be the next team that surges in a NFC North with an absence of probably Aaron Rodgers and really like a truly good to great football team.
Let me ask you this two NFC North questions. And there's hypotheticals. But do you see the Packers, a la the Seattle Seahawks, getting better next year if Aaron Rodgers were to move on? Do you see a world where that Aaron Rodgers sort of eschews the offensive system, gets into those traps of throwing deep bombs under pressure?
I mean, he can certainly
are they better?
They could certainly get better than they were this year record-wise, but we're also looking at. I mean, it's tough to judge Aaron Rodgers like on this season alone. Like, will the Packers' next 3 seasons be as good as their last 3? Probably not. But could they win 10 games next year? Maybe. Sometimes I think just when you're in a situation where you loaded so heavy on Rodgers and Adams there for a minute, and obviously they saw that wasn't sustainable. Sometimes dumbing it back down and going like, let's just build it from the ground up and get Jordan Love in here and let him do not Aaron Rodgers things. Like, and yeah, like there was a point at the end of that game where it's like, the Aaron Rodgers throw, like Aaron Rodgers could have cost them that game.
Yeah. Well, those two airmail deep balls, you're like,
yeah.
what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's not Aaron Rodgers. I agree with Joe.
I feel like that is a very Aaron Rodgers. Only in the past has been awesome at that. And but I think that's his MO. But
look, I will say this to kind of put a button on it. Will I absolutely laugh my ass off if the Lions get worse next year? Will I laugh? Yeah. But I agree. Like, dude, now's your time. Like now is your time. But again, I can't say it enough about Jared Goff, man. Like, he ain't that guy. You got some nice pieces in place. I agree. I think the offense, it was a very well run offense. But here's the thing about Goff. I don't know if you guys noticed this. I noticed this personally. Goff was obviously the only one who's been there before on good winning teams, because he was the only guy who wasn't going nuts. It's just like in the interviews and like, I don't know. It was like, oh, there's a guy, like you said, Tug, who's been there before. And then there's people going crazy. And I'm like, well, what just happened here? Like you guys beat a division rival in Lambeau, which is cool, but like you're done for the year. But look, hey, congrats to the Lions fans. I lost $100 bet. Congrats to Boonstra. I paid up on it. I think Joe might have another bet out there too.
The last thing I want to say about the NFC North and the Lions is that the next year might be their year, because they do escape the first place schedule. So, they will get some opportunities to, not play the tougher teams, still being a winning record, getting guys fully healthy. They hit on their draft picks this year, which is nice. Still have like a pretty high draft pick for next year. Speaking of draft picks, though, in NFC North, I before we leave, I had to talk about what the Bears have got going for them, and then the Texans, because the Bears now own the first overall draft pick. They have what people deem as a quality quarterback, a quarterback worth building around. And then there's the Texans, who I don't know if you were watching. I was watching that game from my ticker, and I was like, what is happening? And they decided to fire Lovie Smith. My point is, but I guess what I want to say is, why would you not fire? Just don't play with no coaches. Like, bring in. Everyone laughs at Jeff Saturday, when actually Jeff Saturday did the Colts a favor. So why don't you just do a Jeff Saturday and make Brandon Cooks the coach for the game? Like, no,
Matt Schaub, bring him in.
I mean, the thing about Lovey is, like, I truly, when I saw that he was let go last night, I was truly like, did they fire him for winning the game?
Yeah, exactly.
Or did they fire him because they didn't win enough games? Like, because I don't know how many games the Texans were expecting to win. Did he just simply get fired for costing them the number 1 overall pick? And like, the Texans were in a lot of games this year.
They played good the last 4 weeks of the year. I mean, almost beat the Cowboys, almost beat Kansas City.
And you're not gonna be a even mediocre to good team if you just have a straight up question mark at your quarterback position, where you're just like, it's Davis Mills or whoever else impresses us during the week. Like, you've got to fucking start somewhere. Yeah, it seems silly to me, but like, again, now we get into a situation where, are they firing him because there's guys out there who they'd rather have? But you can negotiate with a fucking Sean Payton without firing Lovey the night of the end of the season, or whoever you may want.
We talked about some unserious franchises. I mean, the Texans, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, we don't know if we like Bryce Young better or CJ Stroud. We don't know. So we're just going to play to win, and we'll just take whoever is left to us. But you probably rather have that choice in your hand. You'd rather have the bird in hand. So you should have fired Lovey a week ago and never even played that game.
But I mean, we're now in. How do you even become the coach of the Texans?
It's a great point.
Is that the third? It was 1 year for him, 1 year for the guy before him, and then before that, was it O'Brien? Or 3 of them in a row now?
Who I believe was a college to pro winning record. It was on that list. But, it just
despite not having a winning record in college, or not winning 10 games in college ever.
So it's just amazing to watch that, because you have the opportunity now. I'm looking at the draft board, top 10, and it's like the Bears are going to have to make a decision whether they want to keep that with Fields or get a haul to move back and have someone trade up. So it's very the draft immediately becomes very interesting right now. But again, to your point about the Texans, who would want to work for that organization that doesn't even understand what the game plan of, like, you have to get the first pick? Like, even that was botched. So I don't know. We're looking at the elite teams this year, but just as compelling are what teams, the Premier League of soccer should be relegated, like the Texans. And we got to deal with them. Talk about them too.
We can't relegate any teams because there's already 14 teams making the playoffs. So we relegate teams.
I know.
We're gonna be at 60% of the teams make the playoffs soon.
No 17 has ever won a game. They've all been 7-point underdogs or worse. So, like, do we even need that seventh team, man?
No, we got tough sledding for these guys. The Dolphins.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to watch the Dolphins play? Give the Bills a bye and give the Dolphins a bye. Give Tua's brain a bye and give the Bills a second bye for Hamlin.
The game they played a few weeks ago was so fun. That night game with Bills in Miami, it'd be fun if we get that again.
I was watching that Jets Dolphins game yesterday, and they kept showing Dan Marino on the sideline. I was like, just put him in, dude. Like stop showing him. I don't care how old Marino is. I bet he can sling it around the field a little.
Meanwhile, Tua's walking by. He's like, "Are those isotoners?" And you're like, just go in the blue tent.
Wow, old school call. I love that.
I have to. I hate to do this, but I got to get moving. I got a basketball practice to coach.
So this is the secret I wanted and the advice I need from you, Andy, before you go. So I'm coaching my son's 6-year-old basketball team. First practice is tonight.
Oh, same thing.
So I need you to give me some quick tips on, some coaching edge. Like, what are you doing in practices? Are you doing drills? How do you?
That's tough, Tug.
I'm talking to a tri-state legend here with Joe Prano, Midwestern, coaching savant Andy Ruther. But
I'm the assistant. I'm just the number 2.
Well, how do you? Oh, you're the Ollie. Are you the Dennis Hopper?
Yeah. I'm shooter.
You look like Ollie, but you
I'm shooter. I'm walking in with my flask.
3, 2, 1, let it fly. In and out.
Well, here's my look. At that age, that's tough. I started.
How do you start at the beginning when you have
that's what I'm saying. I started 3rd grade, so now we're in the 5th grade. So this is my 3rd year. At that age, you just gotta get them to listen. I know it sounds. Come on, like, you gotta get them to just pay attention. Do fun drills. I don't know, like, gather them around the circle, ask them what their favorite food is. Like, try to do some icebreakers. There's not even
a ball. No ball for the first month.
Well, at 6, there's a little bit of, like, maybe don't dribble, maybe just some chest passes, some bounce passes.
Yeah.
Start there. You don't need to dribble to get the ball up the court, guys, especially since none of you can dribble.
I 100% thought about that. And I was like, what's the technique of a chest pass? The thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you're not doing 10 feet regulation, right?
7.5 foot.
Okay. Yeah. So, that's what I would
use
do.
The backboard.
100% use the rectangle as your friend. But it brings up an interesting question, right? When you're thinking about, like, whatever levels of basketball we all played, like, we all have knowledge of a sport. And how do you start at the beginning? I think it's a really interesting thought exercise. Be like, how do you teach someone what a double dribble is, what a backcourt, like, the weird intricacies of a sport, I think is.
So we have a kid in our team. He's a 5th grader, right? He's never played basketball before. And he, at that level, think about it, they're either 10 or 11. He doesn't understand a lot of the basics. And it's like, I sit there and I have to teach him. We always just try to tell our kids this, and 6-year-olds probably won't get this, but, like, guys, it doesn't matter your skill set. Like, we just try to preach, just play hard, right? We're like,
it's very Dan Campbell of Andy. Act like is this the level that you're asking them to achieve? Just have fun, show some grit.
Well, no, I tell them,
have hustle and heart.
Just try. Well, that's the thing. Like what I tell them, I say, guys, like, the one thing that you do have in common with, like, a LeBron James, and I've said this multiple times, is
you're on Earth.
Well, Like your skill set is obviously different, but you can both put forth the same energy. Like at that age, 6 is kind of tough to get them to understand that. But like when they're 10 and 11, you obviously have massive disparities of skill sets. Like, dude, I don't care. I told the kids the other day, because we had kids who gave up and I was pissed. And I was like, I don't care if you turn the ball over every time. I don't care if you miss every shot. You have to at least try. That's all I ask. Just try. Don't put your head down when you brick a shot or throw the ball away. Just try, man. Like that's all I want the kids to do. And that's why I'm the assistant.
Yeah. Well, the assistant, the players always, I remember my experience with coaches, I always loved the assistant because the coach was always sort of, tough or a little more.
Good cop, bad cop.
100%. You always like your closest friend at the bench, you'd always try.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
He's actually running plays, and I'm saying, "What'd you guys have for dinner?" And the kid says a burrito, and I'm like, "What type of burrito?" And then my buddy, who's the head coach, he's like, "Dude, are you preparing them over there to go in for the next play?" I'm like, "No, I'm asking him what kind of burrito he ate tonight."
I always think it's weird though when there's a coach that has no son in the league, like you're just like this weird, sketchy, unrelated to any kid in the league. Like,
at least
like
I have my nephew, Yeah, I at least have my nephew. It's at least my nephew on the team. They do background checks,
Okay, good.
Well, Tug, good luck, man. It was great having you on. Big 900 episode.
Yeah, I'm like Tom Brady. Like, who do you throw his 400 path to, 500 path, your touchdown path? That's why I want to recount on like who was on 500, 600, 700. I'm lucky to be on 900. But it's great to see you guys both, Joe. Hopefully we'll see each other in person. And once the rain settles out here in sunny SoCal.
Yeah, we got to get some sun back. Get back out on the golf course.
Love it. Can't wait. Andy, hopefully I'll see you somewhere this year. But always good to talk sports with you guys.
Same.
Best to all the dirt balls out there. You can follow me on Instagram at Tug Coker, or Twitter at Tug Coker.
Awesome. Thanks, Tug. And Brando, we there's still some things we didn't get to, but we'll have to save that for next episode.
Well, you can follow me on all social media at Joe Prano, except Twitter, where I'm at Fix Your Life. For people who are asking, a lot of people reached out to me about the Amazon shows I did last week, Game Breakers and the Backup Plan. Those are both available now, finally, for you to download and stream on Amazon Prime. So shout out to the Dirtballs who tried to watch those and couldn't find them yet. I believe they are both available now. Some folks have already told me they've watched them. So check those out. Thank you guys who came out and saw shows in New York. Next up, Comedy Cellar in Vegas all next week, 16th to the 22nd, 2 shows every night at the Comedy Cellar in Vegas. Then on to Dead Crow Comedy Club in Wilmington, North Carolina. Then on to Sketchfest in San Francisco for a couple shows. And then there's some more after that, but let's focus on those for now. If you guys are in any of those places, come out and see a show.
Cool. Guys, thank you for sticking with us. 900. We couldn't have done it without you. We'll be back on Thursday for a fun NFL playoff preview. Have a great start to your week. And as always,